Good morning. Welcome to the Boise Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are a spiritually diverse, justice-seeking religious community proclaiming the power of love at the core of our living tradition. Love of neighbor, love of ourselves, and love for our planet. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Whatever faiths you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, however you identify, you are welcome here. God, I'm just so impressed with my sexy voice. It's fabulous. I am Debra Smith, your celebrant this morning. I am joined by our minister, Sara LaWall, who is co-celebrant today and who will be reading one of our Campfire stories along with some others whom you'll meet later. While our fellow boofers are camping at 3 Island Crossing, we can experience a bit of the campfire vibe right here this morning. I'm in charge of the chuck wagon, so make sure you join us in the hospitality room afterwards. We'll experience how stories have the power to entertain and to teach. We are so glad you are here with us today. So let's take a moment to welcome our online community, those joining us via Zoom. Hi, everybody. And look around the room and give a wave to someone, to a friend, or even someone you don't know, and be sure to connect with them after the service at the Chuck Wagon. A special welcome to newcomers, those joining us for the first or second time. We know it takes a lot of courage to check out a new community, and we're glad you have chosen us. Please introduce yourselves after the service, and those of you online, please put your names in the chat, and Nancy will also include some newcomer forms that you can fill out, and it'll tell you all about what is happening in this dynamic, vibrant community.
Each week, we begin our time together by centering ourselves and lighting our flaming chalice, the symbol of our free faith, a beacon of hope, love, and justice. We light our chalice this morning in solidarity with thousands of other Unitarian Universalists lighting chalices in sanctuaries, homes, community centers, worship spaces across the globe, reminding us that we are part of a great community of faith and love. As we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, for those of you on Zoom at home, I invite you to light your chalices along with us, or a candle if you have one, and then share in the chat where it is you have lit your chalice this morning. That's our campfire for today.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Travis. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration. Can I get a thumbs up? Thumbs up. Thank you. Thumbs up. Thumbs up at home. Thank you. Okay. So for today, I just wanted to let everybody know that this is a multi-generational service. So we are not going to break out for RE classes today, but I do have a special activities at both of ends of the doors. We've got puzzle stickers that you can put together and some fidget toys. So you're all welcome to work on those. Adults can take a sticker too. Everybody sometimes needs something to do with their hands. And also I just wanted to let people know we have a group of people generously helping out as we develop the RE program for this year. We're meeting right after service, after we get some snacks, all over at the lodge room, I've said it right. But if anybody else is interested in joining us just to learn a little bit about what we're planning and how we're planning to run RE for next year, anybody's welcome to join us. Sorry, religious exploration. That's what RE means. Thank you. And it's generally our youth groups. So, all right. So, I am doing the call to worship today, and it also happens to be our first Campfire story. And our Campfire stories this week come from a book called A Lamp in Every Corner, our Unitarian Universalist storybook. And this story is called The Circles of Light. And it's about the flaming chalice, 1941. In the dark nights and darker days of World War II, when guns blazed all over Europe and airplanes dropped death from the sky, some Unitarians in the United States decided to help the refugees, the people who were trying to escape the war. So the Unitarian Service Committee was formed. The committee members went to Europe to try to bring refugees safely out of the war. But some of those refugees spoke German, and some spoke French, and some spoke Italian or Yiddish or some other language. So Dr. Charles Joy, who was in charge of the committee, knew that the Unitarians needed a symbol that everyone could recognize, no matter what language they spoke or what country they were from. In 1941, in the city of Lisbon in Portugal, Dr. Joy asked the artist Hans Deutsch for help. Hans was a refugee himself, and in fact, he'd been a refugee more than once. He had been born in Austria, but when the Nazis invaded his country, he fled to Paris. And then when the Nazis invaded Paris, he fled to Portugal. So Hans Deutsch, that's where Hans met Dr. Joy. Draw us a symbol, Dr. Joy asked. Make it look important and official, so it will impress the officials of different countries, yet have it show the spirit of our work, which is to help and serve. So with pencil and ink, Hans drew who knows? A chalice, exactly. A chalice with a flame, surrounded by a circle of protection and love. Refugees all over Europe came to know and trust the sign, and the flaming chalice became a symbol of freedom and hope during the dark nights and the darker days of the war. Over 30 years later, in 1976, the Unitarians and the Universalists had joined to form the Unitarian Universalist Association. That one circle drawn around the chalice became two. So that's why there are two. That's the symbol on hymn books that you'll see. One circle is for the Unitarians, one circle is for the Universalists. What?
I'm just pointing to the chart.
Two. So the circles aren't inside one another, they're intertwined. They're connected just as we are all connected to each other and to everything in the world. Also, you'll notice the chalice isn't in the middle of the circles. It's a little skewed off to one side to leave space for other ideas and other ways. There's always room for more in Unitarian Universalism. That picture of the chalice in the double circle has been used officially since 1976. Real flaming chalices have been used in some of our churches over 50 years. In 1981, the Reverend David Pohl lit a chalice at the General Assembly meeting during the service of the Living Traditions, which is held to celebrate the lives of UU ministers. Many of the ministers who were there that day went home to their churches and fellowships, and they decided to get chalices of their own. Today, all over the world, Unitarian Universalists light the flaming chalice. We light one every Sunday when we gather for worship. Some of us have a smaller chalice in our houses, and we light the chalice before every meal or at other special times. We have all kinds of chalices. They are carved out of wood, shaped out of glass, molded out of clay. We can wear them as jewelry or as pictures on our clothes. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes and colors, just like Unitarian Universalists. The flaming chalice was drawn more than 60 years ago, and it is still a symbol of freedom, hope, and light. It's a symbol of learning, caring, and love, and it's our symbol, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. And now our call to worship. Oh, that was our call to worship. Come, let us worship together.
All of our music today is inspired by our Campfire theme, sing-alongs, and all the lyrics to the songs we'll be singing today are on the paper. Nearby, they were put on all the chairs, so there's some extras around if you need to grab one. And we invited Kristin and Cambria Jenkins to be our song leaders this morning as lifelong Girl Scouts who have been to a number of different camps and Campfire sing-alongs. We thought that they would be helpful hosts in our singing, so I'll let them introduce our first song.
Good morning. Our first song today will be Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Cambria and I will sing it through one time, and then we are going to break you guys we'll sing it all together one time, and then we're going to break you up into groups so we can sing it as a round. We're going to do 2 groups, and when we do the round, we will do it 3 times. All right. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Okay, we are gonna split up. This side over here is group 1, and this side is group 2. We are going to start group 1s, and then Cambria's gonna go group 2. Alrighty, here we go. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come yet again, come.
We come from and live on land considered sacred by many indigenous peoples, known as Bannock, Shoshone, Paiute, and many other tribes that lived here sustainably for thousands of years, inhabiting a vast region including much of Idaho.
We recognize the long history of the land, long before colonization, and acknowledge the ancient tribes whose names have been lost in history.
With this acknowledgement, we wish to demonstrate our commitment to dismantling the legacies of settler colonialism. We honor Indigenous peoples' connection to the land and support their right to sovereignty.
In the challenges of these truths, may we move through the world bringing justice in every way that we can, listening to the truths spoken to us by Native American peoples, making space for them to re-inhabit this place, and giving them back the resources they need to heal their communities.
As you heard from Travis this morning, today our service features stories taken from our own children's library collection, the book A Lamp in Every Corner. I loved hearing the oohs when Travis announced our Unitarian Universalist storybook. Stories of UU History and Heroes by Janine Grossmeyer. There's something special about telling stories around a campfire. How many of you have done that before? How many of you have often told or listened to scary stories around the campfire? Yeah, everybody's like, don't worry, we don't have any scary stories for you. I mean, William Ellery Channing might be a little scary. Scary stories are maybe not for everyone and a little bit more ominous. Stories of wonders sound more mysterious. And stories about heroes sound heroic and maybe prompt us to make a heroic choice of our own at some point in the future. So today we'll hear stories of 4 of our Unitarian and Universalist heroes who relied on their faith as they defied restrictions and oppressions of their time. We hope that we gain some encouragement by their example as we face similar situations in our time. So as we enter into this time of worship together, let us take a moment to breathe together. Fill your body with breath. Breathe, knowing that our breath connects us to our bodies, to one another, and to our planet. Our breath offers us an opportunity to tune in to our spiritual center, to listen deeply to our heart's own longing. Thou art the song of my heart in the morning. Thou art the dawn of truth in my soul. Thou art the dew of the roses adorning. Thou art the woven whole. Thine is the grace to be steadfast in danger. Thine is the peace that none can destroy. Thine is the face of the need-riven stranger. Thine are the wings of joy. Thou art the deep, to the deep in me calling. Thou art a lamp where my feet shall tread. Thy way is steep past the peril of falling. Thou art my daily bread. Thine be the praise of my spirit uplifted. Thou art the sea to each flowing stream. Thine be the days that are gathered and sifted. Thou art the deathless dream.
second Campfire story is about a founding member of our denomination. William Ellery Channing was born in 1780 in Rhode Island, what became a state that was known as the home of religious liberty. 5 years after graduating Harvard College, he became a minister of a prestigious Congregational church in Boston before declaring himself a Unitarian. He was influential with the Transcendentalist movement, which emphasized that people were basically good if they could resist being corrupted by social pressures. Reverend Sara will tell us a story about this influential minister.
This story is called Those Awful Unitarians. Can you imagine those awful Unitarians? This story takes place nearly 200 years ago, when tall-masted ships sailed on the oceans and horses clip-clopped on cobblestone streets. Two young ladies named Amelia and Emily were walking in the city of Baltimore. It was a warm spring day, and Amelia and Emily twirled their parasols on their shoulders. That was back in the day when ladies walked with parasols on the street. I like that idea. When it's real hot, I'm gonna do that. And they lifted the hems of their long skirts to step over the puddles of rain and the muck in the streets. "Good day, ladies," called a gentleman as he tipped his hat to them and smiled. Amelia smiled back and said, "Good day." But when the gentleman had gone by, Emily clutched her friend's arm and said, "Amelia, don't you know who that is?" "No." "That is a Mr. Jared Sparks. He's going to be the minister of that new church with the big dome on Franklin Street." "Don't you wish we greeted your ministers in that way?" "With that on the street. Do you know who that is?" Amelia gasped. "You don't mean, yes, Mr. Sparks," said Emily, and looked around, and then Emily lowered her voice before she said, "He's a Unitarian." "Oh, dear," said Amelia. And she turned to look at the gentleman. He was just disappearing around the corner. "Oh, he seemed like such a pleasant man." Emily sniffed. "Father says those Unitarians are all non-believers." Amelia said, "But I heard that Mr. Sparks is going to be ordained on Wednesday." Emily sniffed again. "They may call it ordained, but Father says he would never call a Unitarian minister reverend because they are not proper Christians. They don't even believe that Jesus is the Son of God." I know y'all are secretly sitting there going like, okay. "Oh my goodness," said Amelia. "Mama said one of their ministers, a Mr. William Ellery Channing, will be coming all the way down from Boston to give a sermon, and a great many other of their ministers will be in Baltimore too." This time Emily giggled. "No one will hear Mr. Channing's sermon unless they're sitting in the very front row. People say that in the grand new church those Unitarians built, it's simply impossible to hear, which is a very good thing." Yes, it is, Amelia agreed. That sort of Unitarian nonsense shouldn't be spread around. And with that declaration, the two young ladies continued on their walk, stepping over puddles, twirling their parasols on their way. William Ellery Channing did come to Baltimore, all the way down from Boston. Dozens of other Unitarian ministers came too. They held a special ordination ceremony for Mr. Jared Sparks, and he became the Reverend Jared Sparks, the official minister of the church. And Reverend Channing, because Unitarians did call their ministers Reverend Channing did preach a sermon that day. And it's true that back then, in a new church with the big dome, not very many people could hear the sermon. But over 10,000 people read it because it was printed and sold all around the United States. Now, back then, Amelia and Emily knew Unitarian wasn't considered a polite word. Makes y'all want to say it all the more, doesn't it? Claim it. People preferred to be called liberal Christians in a congregational church. That's a mouthful. That's even more of a mouthful than Unitarian Universalist. But the title of William Ellery Channing's sermon that day on 1819 was Unitarian Christianity. It's our name, he said. We must not shrink from it. 2 years after Mr. Channing's sermon in Baltimore, over 100 congregational churches had declared themselves to be Unitarian. 6 years after the sermon, a group of ministers created the American Unitarian Association. They were proud of that name. And we just celebrated that milestone a few months ago, 200 years of the American Unitarian Association. And we are also proud of that name.
When we give, we say yes to the natural cycle of abundance in our lives, and we say yes to building beloved communities within and beyond our walls. We commit ourselves to do work for justice and compassion for all people and our earth. As usual, we share these gifts with our plate partner, and this being the 5th Sunday of the month, our offering is directed to our own food pantry and gift cards as an expression of our commitment to living out our faith in the world. I invite the ushers to please come forward. Our offering will be accepted.
As our ushers bring our offering gifts forward this morning, I invite us all to join together in the collective blessing of our offering found in these cards in your seat back pockets or stuffed into your hymnals or sitting right on your chair. We bless these gifts so freely given. May generosity always be our guide as we walk the holy path toward ever greater compassion and beauty. Thank you.
Our third Campfire story this morning is about an inquisitive girl who grew up to be a famous scientist. She was also a suffragette, a professor, an advocate for women, and she became the first woman to be elected to the American Philosophical Society in 1869. Here to tell this story is Dawn Mansfield.
This is a story about Mariah Mitchell, 1818 to 1889. Once there was a little girl named Mariah who was full of questions. When she was 2, she asked, "What? What is that? What is this? And what are those? What are these?" Her parents answered as best they could. "That's a dog. This is a cat. Those are dog whiskers. These are cat's toes." Her parents gave her lots of answers, but she always had more questions. When Mariah was 3, she started to ask, "How? How does this work? How does this happen? How do we know how it goes?" Her parents tried to answer as best they could. Boiling water makes steam, and steam pushes the lid of the tea kettle, and we know because, well, we do. But how? Mariah wanted to know. How do you know? Well, because we look at it and we wonder and we do experiments to find answers. You can do experiments too. When Mariah was 4, she started to ask, why? Why do boats float? Why does it get dark at night? Why do cats have fur? Why do people wear clothes? Her parents tried to answer as best they could, but no matter how many answers they had, Mariah always had more questions. She asked questions at home, she asked questions at school, she asked questions at the Quaker church where her family belonged. She asked questions of everyone she met, hundreds of questions, thousands of questions, millions of questions, an infinity of questions from one little girl. Mariah had an infinity of questions, and she also loved the infinity of the stars. In the evening, she and her father would climb the stairs to the top floor of their house in Nantucket, Massachusetts, by the sea. Then they would climb up a ladder to get to the roof. And on the roof was a small platform with a railing around it called the Widow's Walk. From the top of the house, Mariah could see far out to sea, and far above her to the stars. Thousands of stars, millions of stars, an infinity of stars, and one little girl. "I love the stars," she told her father, and they would look through a telescope to see farther into the sky. Then Mariah would start to ask questions. Where do the stars come from? How old are they? Why do they shine? Why are there so many? How far away are they? Some questions her father could answer, some he could not. So Mariah set out to find out answers for herself. She studied hard and read many books and did experiments. And she became an astronomer, a person who studies the stars. When she was 29, she discovered a comet, which was named Comet Mitchell, after her. The King of Denmark gave her a medal for discovering the comet. In 1848, she was named a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, which had never had a woman before. But Mariah was still full of questions. How do we know God exists? Is all of the Bible true? Why are we here? Some people gave her answers, but then when Mariah asked, "How do you know?" they answered only, "Because we do. Because we read it in a book, and that's the way it is, and we shouldn't ask anymore." Mariah didn't think those were very good answers at all. But the answers to her questions weren't found in books or by doing experiments. So Mariah kept asking. One day she heard a talk by a Unitarian minister named William Ellery Channing. He didn't have the answers either, but he said there was room for an infinity of answers to the infinity of questions, and the important thing was to wonder, not to know. Mariah decided to join the Unitarian Church because those words woke up her mind. All through her life, Mariah Mitchell asked what, how, and why. She became a teacher so she could help other people answer their own questions. In 1865, she became a professor of astronomy at Vassar College, and she taught other people about stars. Sometimes they found answers to the questions. Sometimes they didn't. But Mariah Mitchell was happy either way, because the most important thing is to wonder, not to know.
Our next song is Blowin' in the Wind, and I think y'all know this one. Got the lyrics on your sheet here, so just join along when you're ready. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? And how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? Yes, and how many years must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Well, that could have been Mariah's anthem, couldn't it? She would have changed the pronouns, though. Oh, let's see. This morning's fourth story is about a man named Thomas Starr King, a Unitarian minister who served congregations in California. King worked very hard to get Abraham Lincoln elected president, and he helped keep California from seceding from the Union during the Civil War. Whew. He was so respected by the people that when he died, 20,000 people paid him tribute at his Unitarian church in San Francisco. This story will be read by Michael Alvarado.
No pressure. Jeez, wow. A long time ago, when railroad trains were still brand new and the United States only had 24 stars on its flag instead of 50, there lived a boy whose name was Starr. Now that may seem like an odd sort of name to us today, which maybe not. But his mother's last name had been Starr before she was married, and back then children were often given mother's maiden's name as their middle name. Everybody's doing that now in their head. They're like, oh, everybody just did that, right? Yeah. Fernando Coriel Alvarado? Probably not. I don't know. Starr's full name was really Thomas Starr King, but there were lots of boys named Thomas around, and so his family called him Starr. Starr was bright, just like his name, and he was bright in school, learning his lessons well. He was bright at home, helping out cheerfully, and doing his chores without complaints. Yeah. Shock and awe on the youth in this congregation, right? It's mildly embellished, okay? Maybe it's not all true. Maybe it's a little bit true. And he was bright at the Universalist church his family went to, where his father was a minister. Starr was always happy to help. He camped, he carried the hymnals, he published the candle holders, and he helped dust the pews. But most of all, Starr loved ringing the bell. On Sunday mornings, bright and early, he'd climb up into the stairs, up into the bell tower, and he'd grab the rope with both hands and pull. And then, kiddos, what do you think the sound was? Bong! Maybe it was deeper. Bong! Maybe it was a little bit higher. I don't know. And up would go Starr. That rope would pull him right off his feet, and then he'd come down with a plump, plump, thump. Very good. All right. And the bell would go. Good job. Good job. Then Starr would give that rope another pull and up, and he'd go again, even higher this time, and the bell would go. Yeah. Starr loved ringing that church bell. He loved other music too. He loved singing, especially at church, where lots of people sang in harmony. Some sang high, some sang low, some sang in between, but all of the different voices worked together to create one glorious song. Starr liked everything about church. When I grow up, Starr said, I'm going to be a minister in the church, just like my father. And Starr was. When he was 21, he was a minister in a Universalist church. But then, when he was 24, he changed churches. Scandal. He became a minister in a Unitarian church. Back then, the Universalists and the Unitarians were still separate. Starr was ahead of his time. He was a Universalist Unitarian over 100 years before the rest of us became Unitarian Universalists. Some of his friends weren't happy to see him change. Starr, they said, how can you leave Universalism? He wasn't in California yet, but it gets there. I'm not leaving Universalism, Starr said. I can be a Unitarian and Universalist at the same time. Don, don, don. I'm just singing a different part. We all sing together to make one glorious song. Ministers, they always have those pithy sayings, right? You're like, oh, that's so true. In 1860, this is such a hard way to say it, when railroads went from state to state, there were 33 stars on the American flag. Starr left Boston, Massachusetts, and moved all the way across the country to San Francisco, California. You think his friends were happy about that? Not this lot, right? No, it's like, where's your supportive community? No, his friends weren't happy to see him go. Starr, they said, how can you move so far away? Brutal. Change your friends. I'm not leaving our country, Starr said. I'm just moving to a different state. All the states work together to make one great nation. Ding. But the year was 1860. Not everyone agreed, for those of you keeping track at home. That's right. The Civil War was coming, and the nation was being torn apart. Some states to the north and some states to the south. The stars were coming off the flag, and California was in the west, and no one was sure which way it would go. Thomas Starr King was sure that the states would stay together. One nation, indivisible, he said. And he set out to convince everyone in California of that too. He was a minister at his church in San Francisco, and he preached there on Sundays, but he also traveled around the state and made speeches. This was before you could just put up on your phone and tweet everybody hey man, we should probably stay. He actually had to go around and travel and do the work to go through and do, much like we do today with all of our door knocking, which I'm sure we are all volunteering to do. So he made speeches in towns and in mining camps, in great lecture halls and in canvas tents. He made speeches in front of thousands and thousands of people. Now, he didn't convince all of the people, but he convinced enough. And in 1861, California voted to stay in the Union and to keep its star on the American flag. Woo. I know California can be a bit of a, challenging word for some of you here, but it's a good word. It's a good word today. He saved California for the Union, said a general in the Union Army. That general was probably much older. He saved California for the Union. And that helped the North win the war. The people of California still remember him for that today. California put a statue of him in the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco and sent another statue to Washington, D.C. That statue of Thomas Starr King stands in the Hall of Columns at the Capitol building, and you can go see it if you ever go there. He has 2 mountains named after him, one in California's Yosemite National Park and one in the New Hampshire's White Mountains. Both Unitarians and the Universalists still remember him, and we've set his name on the school where some of our ministers go, the Starr King School for the Ministry in Berkeley, California. So you may hear his name from time to time, and now you know why. Thomas Starr King was a bright and shining star. With super grumpy friends.
We'll now have another sing-along led by Kristin and Cambria.
All right, our next song is going to be This Little Light of Mine. It is on the flip side of your paper, and this is another one that I think you all have grown to love and know, so just jump in when you're ready and able. And after we sing through the first 3 verses, we are going to go back to the top and sing that first verse one more time.
Let it shine.
Y'all are doing a great job keeping that campfire smoke out of your voices. I'm really proud of you. Our final story this morning is about Olympia Brown. Let's see what I had to say about Olympia. She was born in 1835 in a log cabin, and her family were very progressive universalists. In other words, they didn't believe in hell. They believed in something called universal salvation. So that was very progressive. Her aunt and uncle were even part of the Underground Railroad. She was a suffragette and so independently minded that when she married, she kept her own name. Yeah, a very unusual thing to do in her time. After women got the right to vote in 1920, she campaigned for world peace until her death in 1926. This story is called A Voice and a Vote. When Olympia Brown was little, girls weren't supposed to whistle. Girls, it's just one of those cultural mores. I don't know. It's like we had to wear dresses in school. I don't know. Girls weren't supposed to climb trees or run fast or catch frogs. But Olympia did. She did all those things and more. You can do whatever a boy can do, her mother and her father told her. I told you they were progressive. And Olympia knew it was true. She climbed trees and ran fast and caught frogs, and when she was in school, she answered the teacher's questions loud and clear. Little girls ought to be quiet, said one lady in town. Little girls ought not to make themselves heard. But Olympia did. She had a voice, and she was going to use it every day. When Olympia Brown was a teenager, young women weren't supposed to go to college. Young women weren't supposed to leave home to go off and learn complicated things. But Olympia did. She did all those things and more. Olympia left home and went to Antioch College. She went to class and studied and learned all kinds of complicated things. Young women ought not to be in college, said one professor at the school. But since they are here, they must read their reports. Young women ought not to give speeches from memory like the men. Don't want to tax their little brains. But Olympia did. When it was her turn to present her report, she rolled up the papers in her hand and said each and every word loud and clear. Olympia Brown had a voice, and she was going to use it every day. When Olympia Brown was in college, women weren't supposed to wear pants. Women weren't supposed to wear anything except very long dresses that came all the way down to their toes. But Olympia did. She wore dresses that came down only past her knees. Scandalous. And under them, she dared to wear pants. Bloomers, the pants were called after Amelia Bloomer, the woman who had created them a few years earlier. Women ought not to show their ankles in public, exclaimed some of the men. Their ankles, that's right. And women certainly ought not to wear pants. But Olympia did. She wore her bloomers every day, no matter how much the men sneered. When Olympia Brown was finished with college, women weren't supposed to be ministers. Women never stood up in front of a congregation and talked about God. But Olympia did. She did all those things and more. Olympia graduated from the theological school at St. Lawrence University in 1863, and she was ordained as a Universalist minister in June of that year, the second woman ever to be officially ordained by that church. She became Reverend, thank you, Olympia Brown. Women ought not to speak in public, said a minister at that time. Women ought not to take the pulpit or discuss the nature of God. but the Reverend Olivia Brown did. During the next 35 years, she was a minister of 5 different congregations, and she visited other congregations too. She took the pulpit in every single one, and she spoke on the nature of God and love, and she did an excellent job. Olivia Brown had a voice, and she used it daily. When Olympia Brown was born, women weren't allowed to vote. Women weren't allowed to have any say in who elected president or senator or mayor of the town. But Olympia had something to say about that. She had a lot to say about that. She traveled all over the state of Kansas in a horse and buggy, giving speeches to convince people that women deserve the right to vote. She wrote hundreds of letters. She spoke to the representatives and senators in Congress. She marched in parades. Olympia and her friends worked hard to get women the right to vote. Olympia Brown had a voice, and she used it every day for over 50 years. And finally, when Olympia Brown was old, women were allowed to vote. In November of 1920, when she was 85 years old, she voted for the very first time. Olympia had always had a voice, and she'd used it to make sure that she and all the other women in the United States had a vote as well. Yay.
All right, next song up is This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land. Y'all are gonna have to help me out with this one. So get those lyrics ready. Here we go. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, and I saw above me that endless skyway, I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps through the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts. All around me, a voice was a sounding. This land was made for you and me. There was a hurdle, there tried to stop me. Signs that was painted said private property, but on the backside it didn't say nothing. This land was made for you and me. When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling. A voice kept chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
So if we were camping with our friends at 3 Island Crossing, we probably would have all sat around the campfire with our chairs and talked with each other and made new friends and shared a little bit about ourselves in the way that you can only do when you're camping and it feels like the whole world floats away. So for our time of sharing joys and sorrows, I'm going to invite you to imagine many, many little campfires among you and gather around those that are sitting near you, 2 or 3 or 4, and just share 1 or 2 things each about your life, a joy, a sorrow, something that interested you in one of our stories today. Just have a little campfire moment together. Please make sure everybody gets a turn to share, and I will ring our bowl when it's time to come back together. That campfire is starting to die down. Everybody's yawning. People are needing to get in their tents and their RVs and their campers. Next time, Kristin. No, we have a whole plan. Next year s'mores. Next year s'mores after. And I'm going to invite you to do the same. You know, my family just got back from a road trip in a camper van where we got to kind of go all the way up to North Idaho where we'd never been before in Sandpoint, which is lovely. And we were camping on a friend's property way out in Sandpoint, about 10 miles even north of the city. And they have a big property with 10 acres and lots of trees. And so we just decided rather than stay in their house, we're just going to stay in the camper van. And we pulled our our chairs out and sat in the driveway because as we were driving there, we realized there are no lights. No lights anywhere around. I mean, they had a front porch light, but it was hard to see until you got into the driveway. So we pulled our camp chairs out and sat in the driveway and looked up at the stars, which is my favorite thing to do when camping, because you see stars when you're camping out in the wilderness that you just can't see when you're here in town, especially in the big city of Boise. So I'm going to invite you on that journey with me as our meditation time together. Just invite you to close your eyes and put yourself in whatever outdoor place is a favorite of yours where you feel at peace, where you feel the beauty that surrounds you in the trees, or maybe there's water nearby, or maybe you are a desert lover, and that landscape is what speaks to your heart. Put yourself in whatever landscape helps you open your heart and relax your body. And then imagine it is nightfall. And there are no lights except the stars in the sky. And with each inhale, you see new stars. You see that Milky Way starting to come into focus. You notice another constellation you hadn't noticed before. And everything slows down. And the world stills. And it's just you and the stars. And out of the corner of your eye, you see that shooting star that you always hope to see every time you get a chance to look up at the night sky. And in that quiet, speckled beauty in the darkness, perhaps a new wonder, a new gratitude opens up in you. A new revelation about your life and place in this universe. You let all of those feelings into your body. Letting your body just find peace and stillness. Remembering beautiful lessons that you heard during Campfire, stories of our UU history and heroes. Embracing who we are as Unitarians, turning to wonder, not needing to know all the answers, shining brightly, using your voice to make change in whatever corner of the world you find yourself. And remembering, even in the infinitude of the sky, you're here with a community. A community of people hoping, yearning for the same things, learning alongside you, reaching out together, holding each other up, sharing our lives with one another, reminding each other of the joy of community, of singing and laughing and telling stories. And with one more big inhale of gratitude and exhale of love, you are ready to come back into this place. And remember, you can always go back to the stars. Whether you drive to them, look up at night, or just close your eyes for a moment and remember. Amen. We have one final song to sing together, a special one brought to us by Kristin and Cambria.
All right, as Reverend Sarah said earlier in the service, we are lifelong Girl Scouts. Cambria was the future Girl Scout before she was a Girl Scout, being the youngest. It's just been the family way. And so it's once a Girl Scout, always a Girl Scout. So just curious how many Girl Scouts we have out among us. Excellent. So you all know this song because it is the very first song that you learn when you join Girl Scouts, and it is Make New Friends. So we've got 3 verses of the myriad of verses that you can have for Make New Friends. Cambria and I will sing the first verse just to familiarize everybody with the melody. And then we would love for y'all to sing all 3 verses with us all the way through. And then just as we started the service, we're going to go ahead and split off and do a round. This will be our group 1 that will begin with me, and then Cambria will get started with group 2. All right, here we go. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold. Awesome, y'all remember that really well. Let's go through all 3. Here we go. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold. A circle is round, it has no end. That's how long I want to be your friend. Across the lake, across the sea, friends forever we will always be. Make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold. A circle is round, it has no end. A circle is round, I want to be your friend. Across the lake, across the sea, friends forever we will always be. Thank you for singing with us today.
Friends, I invite you to place your hands over your hearts for our closing blessing. As you go your way in the week ahead, may you be uplifted by the stories you've heard this morning of our UU heroes, and may you be heartened by their courage and steadfast faith. May you feel deeply the loving bonds of our beloved community, and may you share that love wherever you go and with whomever you meet. May it be so. Go in peace.